Yep. Hello everybody, welcome to a penalty shootout free zone that is the day of press conferences ahead of tomorrow's Muller British Grand Prix. It's the last Wanda Diamond League for form and head-to-head matches. My name's Jeff Whiteman, I'm one of the stadium announcers tomorrow. The good news for those of you that have just dried out from May is that the weather forecast tomorrow is much improved on May, much improved on today. It's around about 16 degrees, light winds, some sunshine possible in the afternoon and evening. So good news on the weather front. Some tickets are still available. So if you are filing today, perhaps you could mention that, please. We're going to have a press conference with some of the leading British contenders who will introduce to come forward one at a time in just a moment. They'll pose for the visual media in front of the branded backdrop with their bibs, and then all three of them together for a photo. And then a few questions from me to each of them, a few questions from you, and we have a growing number of questions online from people that haven't been able to join us, so we'll pose those as well. So let's introduce them from the back of the room in the order in which they're listed at the front here. And we begin with a woman who is going to her third Olympic Games for Great Britain in the women's pole vault. The last time she competed in a Muller event, it was at the British Championship, and she broke the British record with 4 metres 90. Please welcome Holly Bradshaw. And I know you're not an applauding audience, but you could, as she comes from the back of the room. Do you have your bib?
Do I have my bib?
Is it on?
No, I've got it on me.
You've done bibs, okay. So just in front of the branded backdrop in the middle, I think, for those that are taking pictures.
Oh, okay, you want me to take pictures? Do you want me to sit down or stand up?
Stand in the centre if that's all right.
Do you want me to take my mask off?
Yes, it's a mask-free zone because you're in the bubble, so we're okay. Thank you. And now we have the leading British entrant in the Emsley Car Mile, which was started in 1953. For those of you joining us on the live stream who don't know the history of the event, Emsley Carr was the editor of the News of the World newspaper for more than 50 years. His family put up this trophy in 1953 in a bid to get the first sub 4-minute mile. And as we know, not at the Emsley Car Mile, but the following year, 4 minutes was broken. The prize is a leather-bound book that contains the autograph of all of the winners over those subsequent years, and it's literally been a who's who of milers over the years. We've had Kip Keino, Jim Ryan, Philbert Bailly, Haile Gebrselassie, Seb Coe, Dave Moorcroft, John Walker, Steve Ovett, Hicham El Garouge, Peter Elliott. The only notable miler that never appeared in the book is Steve Cram, and he will be on commentary for the World Athletic Stream and on the BBC tomorrow. So let's welcome the 2017 winner of the Emsley Car Mile, bidding to regain that and going to his first Olympics in the 1500 metres, Jake Whiteman. So just a picture stood in front of the backdrop. Not quite loads of cameras, but at the back there. So looking down the centre.
Mask off.
Yes, you're allowed mask off. Okay, take a seat. And finally, it's been a long time. We're pleased to see her. I think she's pleased to be back in this sort of environment once again. We'll find out soon enough. Please welcome the reigning world champion in the heptathlon, going for her third Olympic Games, Katarina Johnson-Thompson. So one picture with just Kat against the backdrop, and then do you want three together, those of you with cameras? Looking at the back then. And do we want the thorn between two roses stood up? Yes, go on then. Let's have that one. Okay, thank you very much. A couple of questions from me, questions from the room, and we do have questions increasingly coming through on the iPad. Let's start with KJT. What have you been up to? What has happened over the last year? I know you'll probably not want to talk about it endlessly because we're looking forward, but what happened with your injury?
Oh, I thought you were going to say what happened in the world. It was like a lot, you know, COVID, England, I don't know. No, my injury, obviously, yeah, the elephant in the room is the injury, and I've just wanted to be as focused on getting to full fitness as possible. Obviously, I'm here today, here tomorrow competing, so things have went well with my injury, but yeah, it's been a long, tough road, but I'm glad that I'm at the other end of it. It was 7 months ago now. Unfortunately, I ruptured my Achilles late December, and yeah, no, I'm back.
Was the worst part the actual sustaining of your injury, or subsequently where you thought this is going to be a long road back? I mean, what was the sort of lowest ebb, the actual impact?
Yeah, the lowest part was definitely the impact and when it happened and trying to readjust, you know, realities and certain preparations, you know, for something that I've been preparing for 5 years. It's been, you know, a tough road, but I'm happy that it's actually worked out. You know, at one point it could have went one or two ways, and I'm glad it's went in the best direction for me, where I'm able to compete in my third Olympics, and yeah, I'm fully fit and yeah, ready to go.
So when the team was announced, you were named subject to fitness, and I think it was the next day you went out and jumped 184 in the high jump, which must have been, was that more of a relief than you were expecting, or was it in line with training expectations?
No, it was in line with training expectations. Obviously, I missed a fair bit of training at the start of the injury, and I just wanted to get my head down and get into a big training block. You know, I had a lot of training to catch up on, and that's what I've been doing, you know, since pretty much April or March. And yeah, the trials are a little bit too soon for me, but I'm glad that I was able to, you know, with COVID restrictions and stuff as well, so I'm glad that I was able to, you know, go out there the next day and jump that height.
And going in the long jump tomorrow against a pretty loaded field, so what would constitute a successful outing for you tomorrow night?
It depends, you know, I don't know what the conditions are going to be. I haven't done long jumps since, you know, Stockholm Diamond League last year. So for me, I just want to go out there and try and put together, you know, a series of jumps, you know, be maybe consistent on the board and know what my run-up's going to be like ahead of Tokyo, because that's a major event in my heptathlon.
When we've spoken in the past, there are predecessors, Cluft in particular, who moved away from the heptathlon into individual long jump and triple jump. You've always said, no, I am a multi-eventer, I am a heptathlete, that will always be what I do. Is that still how you feel, or have you had to contemplate doing single events?
No, yeah, like exactly what you've just said. I've got too small of an attention span just to stick to one event, so heptathlon for me always.
Have you got an idea in your mind what it will take to win in Tokyo? Do you see a points total or a sequence of events for you that would get you there?
Every time I have in the past, it's been way off. So no, I just try and focus on the competition when I'm there.
And have you got every day between now and then worked out?
Yeah.
Every day counts?
Yeah, every day counts, and yeah, everyday COVID tests.
Yeah. We're asking everybody apart from athletics, what other sport will you look to try and follow at the Olympic Games? What are your other favourites?
I really like the gymnastics, so I think I'll be putting that on. I think that's before the track and field. So yeah, I'll be putting that on in the Holden camp.
Jake Whiteman, who has a familiar look to him, former winner of this event, trying to regain the title. We've just been through the history of it. You have won it. You have also finished stone bonk last in the Emsley Car Mile, haven't you? Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's probably my least favourite memory of Emsley Car, because I've had a couple good runs. But yeah, the first time I did it, I think I just turned 20 maybe, and it was like a loaded field. It was probably one in like 350, and I think I ran 4 dead, and I was off the back for about 50 metres. And the nice thing about it is I don't have to relive it often, because even if you watch the video online, I'm not even in the shot at the back. I was that far behind. But yeah, I've come a little bit better since then.
Actually, you've run a personal best every time you've run it.
Yeah, including that day. That's the funny thing, yeah.
So Graham Williamson's Scottish record is 39 years old tomorrow, 350.6. The pacemaking is set up for that. What do you think?
Hopefully, get that. Cranby let me know he's got the stadium record here.
Yes.
So that's another incentive, try and get that. So yeah, I need to try and improve my mile time. We don't really get the chance to run them too often. And obviously there's a lot of history in the event. So to have a time that you can say is sub 350, to me is a lot bigger a deal than obviously running 4 minutes, which I did a while ago. So yeah, to go under 350 to start with would be something nice tomorrow.
And Eric Sawinski is setting the pace up for that sort of time, but you've got Elliot Giles in the field, so it's a strong domestic lineup. And Elliot is a real wild card over the mile. He's got nothing to lose. Yeah,
he's run quicker than me this year over 1500. So yeah, you've seen how good Elliot's been since trials and including at trials. So he's going to be tough to race against. I don't think I've ever raced against him over 15. But the whole depth of British athletes that are in the race tomorrow is going to be a really good day, hopefully, and a lot of PBs being made off the back of it.
Either side of you going to their 3rd Olympic Games, you're going to your first.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? It's going to be a different kind of experience, isn't it?
Yeah, the funny thing, I missed out on Rio by just not running a standard. And whenever I spoke to people, I think they were trying to make me feel better, but they were like, oh, Rio was naff, like Tokyo will be the one, like it doesn't matter. Now Tokyo's here, it's probably like the least impressive Olympic Games in history. But it's still Olympics, the medals are still worth the same, you're still an Olympian, so everything about it, I'm looking forward to the competition side, and I hope if we don't get a fuss made about all the athletes while we're out there, I'm sure when we come home, everyone will make a fuss about us here. So,
which other sport do you look out for at the Olympics?
I think anything that Britain can do well in, it's easy to get behind, so swimming, cycling. I'm looking forward to the new sports, skateboarding. That would be cool to see how that's done. And I've only seen it a couple of times, but the speed rock climbing is mad. So that's what I look forward to seeing.
Holly, it looks as though every time the Olympics come around, your standards rise. In 2012 and 2016 and this year, your average jump and your best jump has gone up. Is it that kind of a thing for you as you come into an Olympic year, albeit a year delayed?
I don't think so. I think you see, like generally on the world scene, people do raise the game in an Olympic year, but I'm not like trying to do that, and I don't put anything more on an Olympics than I do a Worlds or a Europeans, really. Like I want to go there and do as best I can, and I think the extra year actually has helped me a lot. I think if the Olympics would have been last year, I would not have been in the shape I am now. I think lockdown actually helped me get super strong. It was the only thing that I could do. I couldn't pole vault. I couldn't do 90% of what pole vault training is. So I was able to just reset all my PBs in my garage gym, which was crazy. And I've just been able to build momentum off the back of that. I've got confidence. I think this has been building now for like 4 or 5 years. And I'm just really lucky and grateful it happens to be an Olympic year.
Travelling for everybody has been really, really difficult. We had another horror story for a vaulter with Sandy Morris in Monaco where her poles didn't arrive. Have you had any of those sort of poles snapped in half to fit in the hold and things like that?
No, luckily, touch wood, I haven't, but I absolutely make it my priority to just be so on it with my travel plans. You know, I flew back in to Brussels from Monaco and drove across the border just so my poles couldn't get lost. I bought duplicate sets of every single one of my poles, so God forbid I break one tomorrow, I've got a duplicate set so that it's not inhibiting my performance at the Olympics. And as a pole vaulter, you're just used to it. Travel's an absolute nightmare, and you just get used to it. And in COVID, it's been horrible, but it just is what it is.
I was reading somewhere a quote from you saying that you've tried conspicuously to chill out around competition over the last year or two. How does that work in real terms in the countdown from here to your competition?
I think it's really easy to overthink things in the pole. There are so many variables. Like, I had an interview the other day and I tried to reel off some of them and it was just getting boring because there was so many. And I think for me, when I do a good performance, I tend to overthink it and what did I do well? Okay, I need to think about that. And for me, it's just about relaxation, and I had nothing to lose going into the British Champs. I really wanted to win, but I absolutely wasn't expecting to jump 490, and I was just so calm, so relaxed, doing my thing, and then went to Stockholm and Monaco and tried to force it, tried to control things, and it didn't go as well. So I think I've just learned across this year, relaxation, calm, just to trust myself, and it's really hard in the moment sometimes to do that, but I've just got to trust that I know what I'm doing, and I've been doing this now for a long time, so I can trust myself.
The history of the women's vault at championship level doesn't go back that far for those of us of a certain age, but the women's British scene tends to have been dominated by one athlete for years at a time, and you've been the dominant one for some years now. Would you feel unfulfilled as a competitor if you never got 5 metres, or do you feel it's there now?
I think when I came on the scene back in 2011, 2012, I was quite young and naive, and my goal, I always said, I really want to jump 5 metres. It's a massive barrier as a female pole vaulter. There's only 3 women that have ever done it, and I think throughout my career I've just pushed it out to the back of my mind. It's just another height, and for a while I openly would acknowledge I don't think I can jump 5 metres, but now after jumping 490 it's definitely not off the cards, but it's just not something I'm thinking about. Before the British Champs, people kept asking me, oh, is it 5 metres, 5 metres? I was like, I've not broke my PB in 9 years, let's just start there and then we'll go from there, and I've managed to jump 490, so for me it's just about consistency, and that's how you win Olympic medals, world medals, and I want to win medals. So if I ended my career right now and never jumped 5 metres, I wouldn't be disappointed because I've done all I can to try and achieve that, and I'm just content with where I am.
Which other sport do you look out for at an Olympic Games?
Kind of the same as these guys. I love the gymnastics. It's what I did as a kid, and I think it's just phenomenal. But also I'm like quite stoked to see skateboarding. Yeah. I think new, and yeah, it's going to be exciting, especially like Sky Brown, like young. I'm sure she's the youngest ever Olympian. Yeah. So it's going to be good.
We'll take questions from the floor in just a second. I was just going to ask you two on either end. What would you wish somebody had said to you before your first Olympic Games as Jake is approaching? What do you wish you'd known then that you know now?
Well, for me, because it was a home Olympics, it was very different, and I just couldn't focus. I was just so engrossed in what I was experiencing, and I think it's just, the Olympics is special, but when you get in that athletic stadium, just remember it's just the same as the Zurich Diamond League or the Birmingham British Champs. It's just an athletics track, and when you strip it back, you just go there, relax, and just, you're at home. You don't need to worry about, oh, it's an Olympic Games. Just, I'm calm, collected, and let's just go and do your thing and don't get swept up with all the kind of other things that go along with it.
Okay.
I think for me, the home Olympics, as with Holly, we were only 19 at the time, and I think that I would like to have a bit more of that in me, in my performance. I think I needed advice before the 2016 Olympics because I was so, I had the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I just felt like, I had all this pressure to perform, where, as Holly says, when you're relaxed and when you're just focusing on you, that's when you perform best. So I think, yeah, I wouldn't advise my 19-year-old self anything because she was just loving life, enjoying it.
There is, if you put your hands up, we can bring a microphone to you. There'll be a pause between questions while the microphone is sanitised, and I've got questions that have come in on the iPad. So Stuart, first here, Wendy, please.
Jake, I was fascinated at the comparison between the British and American women's 800, 62-second lap and 55-second lap. Translating that to your situation, what's your mindset on the starting line of an Olympic final, having no idea whether it's going to be fast, slow, or something in between?
I think that's the difficulty of championship racing, right, is that you don't know what it's going to be run like. The way that it's been over the last few years globally is that it's been taken out quick, and then obviously the big news is still that Cheruiyot's out at the moment, but I still think he'll be there, which changes how the race will be run completely. But with any championship style racing, however you think it's going to be run, it probably won't be. And it's just making yourself as versatile as possible to be able to stand in the start line and be able to adapt to any situation, because a good racer needs to be able to do that.
Let me take a couple from the iPad. The Times says, Kat, can you give us an idea of how much training you've been able to do? Are you able to run normally?
I should hope so when I'm doing a long jump tomorrow.
Okay. The Guardian says, KJT in the long jump, it's great to see you back in action. It might be hard to say given your injury and lack of competition this year, but do you still believe you can make the podium in Tokyo? And if so, what gives you that confidence?
Like, that's my aim. Look, I wouldn't be, trying. I've worked very hard for the last 7 months to get to the position I'm in. I've been competing. I have, done high jump last week, and I'm doing long jump tomorrow, and then I've got another competition set, ahead of Tokyo. I'm in the same position as I would have been last year. Nobody knows what can happen on the day, especially in heptathlon, and my goals haven't changed, but, circumstances beforehand have changed, but I just know that I'm pushing every day to still achieve my targets.
Thank you. Yes, Ewan.
It's a question for all three of you, if I may. Just, we've seen over the past couple of weeks the amount of pressure that is outside influences that are on the young athletes around. There's a perfect example of it last night was the England footballers, the youngsters who were under a huge amount of pressure to perform. We've seen it in tennis recently as well. But just wondering how much you guys, you're all very experienced athletes, how much you've noticed sort of the social media side of things playing much more of a part, and how more challenging it is to combat that, and through that way, how do you go about sort of ignoring those sort of outside influences?
Left or right?
Social media is very difficult as a sports person. I've noticed it, for many years now, going past, beyond Rio 2016, and it does affect you, and it can affect you in many different ways. I've really had online abuse directed at me, but I've had negative comments that can affect my performance and affect my mentality going into different competitions, and it's something that unfortunately we have to deal with as sports people. We put ourselves out there for a performance and allow others to comment on said performance, and it's hard, but it comes with the sport, and you just have to deal with it. Everyone deals with it in a different ways, and I just know that every time I'm going out there, I'm trying my best, and and that's all I can do. But yeah, I sometimes just delete social media off my phone for a couple of days and just have a little cleanse. And I think even if I wasn't a sports person, I'd probably do that anyway.
Jake?
I've been fortunate. I've not really had too much negative stuff, but I guess if the better you get, the more likely it's going to be. The worst I ever saw it was when Elise Christie was speed skating at the Winter Olympics, and it was just brutal. People have a sadistic tendency to want people to fail in those situations, which is horrible. So you're always going to get it. I don't think people sitting at home typing these things realise the sort of that pressure you're under, and they don't realise what it's like to actually go out, especially in an individual sport like athletics, and compete without anyone around you. It's tough, and I think if people have a reason to criticise you, then you're obviously doing something to grab their attention. So I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just, like Kat was saying, finding a way that you can deal with it and not really take it on board, because these people a lot of the time have no real reason why they can give an opinion, because they don't know anything about it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, when I was young, 18, 19, I had a few comments on social media about my image, and it has really affected me, and it still affects me to this day, and I'm probably going to deal with that the rest of my life. So it is hard. Like these guys said, you put yourself out there, but as a sports person, I would do that anyway. It just so happens that I'm at the level where, I'm on TV and things like that. So it is hard, and I think people don't realise what they're saying, and this is why I'm a big advocate of on social media, trying to educate people, trying to make younger athletes feel better about themselves, that we go out there because we love our sport and we love what we do, and I don't think it's right that people can necessarily judge us on that, but it is what it is, and you just have to be doing it for the right reasons. I don't do this because I want to win medals or whatever. I do this because I want to feel the perfect jump, and it just so happens that when I nail the perfect jump, that results in higher performances and medals. And I do think younger athletes should be focusing on that. They should be doing it for the right reasons, and then they can be at peace with themselves as to, I've gone out there, like Kat said, you've done the best you can, and if people are going to talk about you negatively, then they can do that, but just don't take it on board, and just, yeah.
Couple more from the Telegraph. I'll try and combine the two together. It's both for Kat. What were your thoughts when you suffered the injury? Did you immediately fear the Olympics were in jeopardy? How did you suffer the injury? And is it your jumping foot or the other foot?
It's like 5 questions in one there. Yeah, obviously it's a big injury, so I was very sad. I was almost devastated, but it was in December. It was 7 months ago now. I've been really trying to focus on the future. I'm trying to focus on putting all of my positive attention into performing at the Olympic Games. I don't want to dwell on these things. I don't want to dwell on the past, and I appreciate that I haven't spoken about this, so there will be a lot of questions, and I thank, most of the journalists for giving me space to recover and get to the point I'm in without any, negative attention. So, yeah, I was very sad. It is my jumping leg, but I have high jumped off it last week, which is a very good sign. I'm long jumping off the same leg. I haven't changed legs. Everything's healed. In fact, my left leg is now stronger than my right because of it. So I'm in a good place, and I'm, obviously missing, competition practice, but that's why I'm here today.
Will you feel more nervous than normal when you line up tomorrow, or just pleased to be back?
No, this injury in a way is not a blessing, but it's just helped me to focus on the process a lot more. I've got no room in my brain to feel nervous.
Okay. Yes.
Can I just ask you on that front, in your own mind, how close are you to 100%, and how close will you have to be in Tokyo to compete at the level you want to?
I'm 100% now. Like, everything's healed. I just haven't had, the training, the competition practice that, I normally would have. That's obvious. Everyone knows I haven't competed. This is one of my first big competitions, and it's July, so I'm 100% in my body, but at the same time, the heptathlon is the heptathlon, and anything can happen. And, I just, in the coming weeks, then I'll see where I'm at performance-wise in the coming competitions that I'm going to compete in.
We'll catch up with a couple more. Daily Record says, Jake Whiteman, what will this race tell you about being ready for Tokyo? Does the uncertainty over Chariot, this is Tim Chariot, the defending world champion who hasn't been picked for Kenya at the moment, does that uncertainty hang over everyone?
It was mixed emotions watching in Monaco when he went out and ran 3:28 and looked as good as he had done this season, because part of you doesn't want him to be there because you want it to be like you'd say it was the nailed on gold favourite, and you want it to be as open as possible, but then it's Olympic Games, you want it to be the best athletes possible. So that side of me wants him to be there, because it would be a shame if you'd say, for example, if you won gold and everyone was saying, oh, Chariot wasn't there, like, who would have said that he wouldn't have won it if he was? Yeah, what was the other bit? Sorry,
it was, what will the race tell you about being ready?
Yeah, so I haven't run a quick 15. I've run 1:15 this year, I won it, and it was a run that I was pleased with, but I need to kind of go into it with a time. I think I'm ranked like 45th time-wise in like this year, so I hope that I can go into it and be able to run something that shows that I'm ready to not only be able to race, which I feel like I've done at trials and in my 8s and my 15s so far this year, but also if it comes to a final where it will be time trialed, I can hang on to that pace and be there in the mix in that as well. So that's kind of the only aim of tomorrow, is one, to win it, but also to make sure that I can run a time that is how I feel like is truly reflective of my current shape this year.
I have some more on the iPad. L'Équipe, who don't often join us, but we have a French-based athlete here. You've been training with Bertrand Valsin in Montpellier for a few years now. Did the departure of Kevin Mayer from the group change the way the group works or your relationship with Bertrand?
No, it didn't change anything. Kevin's still in Montpellier. He's still around the track. They both have, a great relationship together still. So it didn't change, no, very much.
Has your vision of heptathlon changed since you trained in France?
Yeah, completely. I've spoken about this in the past. I think up until 2016, I was a good high jumper and long jumper who, ran fast and tried to put together a heptathlon, whereas now I think I'm a fully rounded athlete in combined events, and I approach the season as a heptathlete. I approach everything as a heptathlete. Tomorrow I'll be approaching it as a heptathlete, seeing what I can get points-wise out of it, even though it's nothing to do with with points. So I think, yeah, I'm definitely a more all-rounded athlete now for the combined events.
Any more in the room? Yes, Ewan.
Kat, you mentioned 2016 and the run-up to that there. How different do you feel as a heptathlete, I guess, going into this Olympics compared to your previous?
I just feel a lot stronger mentally. I feel like in 2016, as I mentioned before, I went in there with a lot of expectation on myself, and also everybody else with a lot of expectation on me too to perform, and I completely wasn't ready to handle that pressure at the time, and also do the performances that was needed to be done to win, the gold. Maybe I could have snuck a bronze, but unfortunately, that didn't work out for me, and I feel like I can approach events now a lot more rational, and I'm going in there and I know exactly what I need to do, instead of going in there and hoping for the best. So I just feel a lot more stronger mentally now.
Wendy, there's one over there. Do we have to... Just while you're on your way, very unusually, there's a question for me from the Daily Record. What's it like announcing Jake? For those that don't know, he's my son and I'm the stadium announcer. So it has actually been happening since school sports day. And normally my line is, but there's less people at school sports days. Well, it may be on a par. But let me tell you, having been at the test event for Tokyo in May, the event presentation experience, which is now 100% for the athletes, will be sensational. We've got an award-winning French DJ on the music. We've got some Australian innovation, which is ambient crowd noise that goes up and down, consistent with what's happening in the race. So the event presentation in the stadium won't make up completely for the lack of a crowd, but it will be great television, hopefully great for the athletes. It just lacks a crowd, like a school sports day. Yes.
Good timing. That was my question specifically for Kat and Holly, who have competed already in the games before. Not having any spectators in the stands this time around, does that at all sort of diminish the fun of competing there? And how will it affect you and the other athletes to have no fans in the stands?
I don't think it will affect me too much. Like I love a crowd, don't get me wrong, and especially like Birmingham, London, when you've got a home crowd, it's very, very nice and it feels special. But I've kind of grooved my craft over the last 6 years to I'm very controlled. I can't be one of these people that I don't draw on the crowd and it makes me run faster. I'm very methodical, very in control. If I run faster, it's actually really bad. Like I have a step that I have to make, and if I run too fast, I'm too close, which affects the jump, and actually I'm more likely to do really bad. So I usually never kind of ask for a clap. I never sit there and think, oh, the crowd's amazing, I'm really going to draw on that. It's very, think of my cues, think of my processes. I tick those off as I go along, and that's what gives me a good performance. So I'm not saying that it's a good thing the crowd's not there, but I'm not really aware of the crowd noise or anything like that. I'm just kind of very tunnel vision.
Same for me. As Holly, you just got to think about the process when you're there. I think for me, it's a bit of a mixture, like for the field events. I think, I can just think of the process, but I think I will miss the crowd and say the 800 or the 200 and stuff where, you can feel that wave of excitement going around as you run, and it does give you that little extra energy. But all the athletes are in the same position, so it's not like one of us has got a crowd and the others haven't. So I guess it's just something that we have to adapt to.
Jake?
I think we had enough experience last year from competing without a crowd, and from what I learned, the races where the crowd was less actually had better atmosphere just because the compensation that was made as a result. So Monaco, for example, last year was louder than any other year I'd done it, just because the fake crowd noise generated even more atmosphere than you would get from probably quite a polite crowd normally. I think that it's still an Olympic Games with all the budget that will be able to be put into event presentation, and obviously the inside scoop with that it's going to be good still. It would just be, I think, the moment of, if it goes well, like celebrating with like friends and family in the crowd or doing a lap of honour. That's the one thing I think that will be something you'd never get back. But yeah,
I think it's also a shame for the Japanese athletes that might do well, because London 2012 for British athletes, even turning up on the start line or in the start list for a field event, it was amazing, wasn't it?
I feel like in this Olympics, it's down to like performance. It's at its purest level. Like there's no, going out of the village and seeing Japan. There's nothing else other than you go to the track and you perform. So I think we're going to see some incredible performances because at the end of the day, that's all there is. And I think it'll just make athletes more focused, and you're in the stadium, there's no distractions, and I think it could be really special.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't even think about the lap of honour, because normally the multi-eventers go around
Together,
and bow to the crowd.
You can still do it. You still do it. We'll get the foot pedal going and everything. Any more questions from the floor? Yes. Hold on for the mic so that the remote audience can hear you as well.
I think you'd said earlier in the year that you would move on to Tokyo time as the competition approached. When will you do that, and how much of a challenge is that at this end?
So I've already started doing it. I was in Monaco last week and I missed the second half or whatever extra time of the semi-final because I've already started shifting, and it's incredibly difficult, especially this way round. It's easy to go to bed late, get up late, whereas going to bed early, getting up early, especially when I've got meets, there's a little bit of adaptation happening. Like I think my alarm was meant to be set for like 6 or 5:30 this morning, and I just pushed it back a little bit because I need to recover and I need my sleep. But after Gateshead, I'm going to start getting up at 5 and then 4, and then the day I travel 3. And for me, it's really important. I did it for Australia and I had 0 jet lag. I was just able to get off the plane, sleep, and train as normal. And when I've not done that in the past, say for Daegu back in 2011, I didn't sleep for 10 straight nights. And I just want to make sure I've done everything I can. And for me, this is really important.
Okay, thank you very much. There's nothing new popped up on the screen. For those of you that did post questions remotely, thank you. I hope one way and another they were all covered, albeit some of them were duplicates. Thank you to all 3 of you. Good luck in Costa del Gateshead tomorrow evening, and good luck in the countdown to Tokyo. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you at 1 o'clock for our international athletes.